What's going on, VFXers? My name is VK. Welcome to Phenomenal Creations, the channel that helps you elevate your filmmaking post-production skills. In today's Blackmagic Fusion visual effects tutorial, you are going to be learning how to start compositing live action fire elements into your scenes. Basically, lighting things on fire. That sounded cool? Let's go ahead and jump into Fusion and see how this is done. What's going on? Welcome inside Fusion 16. We have a little upgrade from Fusion 9. So we got a pretty sweet UI upgrade here. The buttons are looking a little bit more sleek and yeah, the UI just looks a little bit more professional in my opinion. Maybe it looks a little bit more like Resolve, probably, or more simpler, but I don't think I like it. It looks pretty clean. I like to work in a software that looks clean and professional. Okay, so what are we doing? As I teased in the beginning, we are creating some pretty sweet fire effects. It's a pretty basic fire composite where we're using live action footage and compositing that into a scene. So that means that we're tracking in, we mess with the colors, and give it some ambience light flicker to make it basically fit into the scene. And we're using some pretty sweet fire elements over from actionvfx.com. You know, guys, that I love those dudes. They create some amazing stuff, and their live action footage is out of this world, best in the business. So definitely go check them out in the link down in the description. They're not sponsoring this video. I have just been working with those guys for a long time, and their stuff is just amazing. So amazing, in fact, that if you use my coupon code VKPhenomenal, you can hook yourself up 10% off anything on their store. So that's pretty cool. That code is affiliated, so you will be supporting the channel when using that code, and at the same time get savings. So it's a crazy win-win situation. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to see how this shot is recreated, shall we? And don't be tempted by this node mind map network. It's gonna all make sense when we jump into the tutorial itself. All right, shall we? Let's go ahead and jump into the second composition. I've been created a clean slate. Let's start working. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and drop in some footage. You can just drag and drop whatever you have. I have this little clip here, the fire footage. I'm gonna put that to both of my viewers, so I have kind of like a before and after look, you could say. Have before here and after here. Just that's kind of like the way I like to work, at least in the beginning. So, and if you're interested, if you want this piece of footage for your own training purposes, definitely check the description down below to get yourself that piece of footage. All right, so as with any kind of VFX shot, we need to track our shot here because we have some movement. If we want our fire to stick it in, we have to have some tracking data to accompany that goal. So let's go ahead and create just a simple tracker. So let's select our fire footage layer here, a shift spacebar, and find tracker. Let's kind of just push that, and we're going to find a little tracker menu here. Let's make sure we go to the first frame here, and let's grab this little the top left corner of this little box and drag it to this, let's say this little Apple TV box here. This light is a pretty good reference point for our track. Let's readjust this so the target area is this small and the search area is pretty much like this. It's a pretty a noticeable point, so I think like Fusion will not have a hard time to move along with that. And then let's go ahead and click on this track forward button. It will do its thing and it will say boom, render complete. Let's click OK. That's awesome. All right, so now we have our tracking information on this here, and so now the tracking information is built into our Fusion composition, so we don't need to parent this to anything. It will be built in, and I'm going to show you why that is so cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a merge node. This merge node will be, let's put it here to the side here, just to keep ourselves organized. Now let's go ahead and start working with the fire element itself. And we're going to do a couple things. Let's go ahead and first put our fire element in here. This is the big fire element I was talking about. Super cool stuff here. I just love the kind of the quality Action VFX does. Let's go ahead and now we can see that when we put this footage in here, basically the entire timeline got up to 1,000 frames long, whereas the fire footage is only about 240. So let's go ahead and change this, that the timeline is about 240 frames long. So also the so the entire composition is not too long. Let's go ahead and adjust this, since the fire element starts off as a really small flame, but I want it to be fully fledged all the way from the beginning. Let's go ahead and open up the keyframes tab in the top right corner and just move along this big fire on this timeline, so we can see on the viewer here that we are getting that nice fully fledged fire all the time of this composition. Awesome. Let's close the keyframes up there. And before we move on to combine this, we could just basically add this to the merge node, put the merge node on the second viewer, and we would have the fire here. But we're going to do something before that. We have to do some prep work. You know, when the fire is pretty close to the bottom here, it's pretty important that we, when we started working with the glows, with this fire needs to have a black background, since glows work a lot better on black backgrounds. So let's go ahead and create a background node here. Let's put that on the first viewer. Zoom out a little bit. The first thing I like to do is to put the height about as same as the width. So we will have something like a 2000 by 2000 pixels wide of a square-ish. That was what we're going to call it. And then we're going to go create a merge node to now merge these fires together. But then let's go ahead and create a transform node. And the reason we are creating a transform node to connect with the fire is so that we can control the size of the fire before we control it here in the merge node. I'm going to show you what I mean in just a second. So now I'm going to put the transform node into this merge node. And if we put the merge node to the first viewer here, now we can see that the background is the black square is the background, and we have the fire in the foreground, but we have just added a transform node as its effect. And we're going to be compiling a couple of effects here between the fire and the transform path. But now we can see with the transform, now we can move the fire freely inside this big black square. And the reason why we created this big black square is that when we are working with the glows, and so some of the glows we want to be really big and they spread out, the glow fall off spreads out really, really much. If we didn't have this square here, you can see it's pretty good, well illustrated by this green box here. If we didn't have this black room here, the glow would be spreading really nicely in these spaces. But here at the end of where it's pretty much closing in on the gap, the glow would be able to exceed over this green line, and we would see the glow be nice and soft everywhere here, but then it looks like it's getting cut off here at the bottom. That's why we're creating this bigger black area, so the glow has space to spread out. That's why we're doing it. All right, so now we have that out of the way, we can now go ahead and parent the merge node to that merge. So now we have it over here. Pretty cool. And now we can put the apply this mode. We're gonna put that to screen when we're working here, but we can keep it on normal for just a moment. What we're gonna do now is to actually put some glows on this fire. Let's go ahead and select the merge node and find a soft glow like this. Boom, we got some soft glow. Let's work with this a little bit. I usually like to have we're going to put maybe 3 instances of soft glow. Let's just move them here so they will be stacked underneath each other. Let's move the threshold a little bit. I just want to attack the highlights of this. Let's put the gain down and glow size down. Let's put the gain up just a little bit, just so we're getting those really nice highlights in there. And not too much, but just enough. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and select this and copy paste. So Command C, Command V. This time, let's give it a little bit more of this glow gain here, or size actually, more size of this. Put the gain down and now move the threshold. So now we're attacking more of the midzones of the fire. I think that looks pretty good. And then one more time, copy paste. And this time we're going to put a lot more of this glow size here. And let's have the threshold to be something around here. That looks pretty nice. But we can always go to control this more and more later. But now if I would select all these and take the glows off, we can see that we are actually doing, giving some action here. It looks pretty good. All right, so now let's go to the merge node and put this to screen. And now we have our fire element pretty well, basically having some glow there, making it look a little bit characteristic, we could say. Let's go ahead and go to back to this merge node where the fire is existing. From here, let's go ahead and now we're gonna basically what we're gonna be doing now is that we're gonna parent the tracking data back to the fire element. So now if we scroll through, you can see it's not sticking to our element here or to our footage. So what we're gonna go to do, we're gonna select the merge node. We're going to go here to the center where we can control basically the center and the center X and Y positions. We're going to go right click, connect to tracker one path. This is the path, the tracker point we used in the beginning of the tutorial, and position. Boom. Now it's parented to the track. And now if I were to move this here, we can see this little spike happening here. Now we are moving because Fusion has created keyframes for every frame for the track. Now we're modifying it, so that's no good. Let's go back there. That's why we created this transform node here. So now I can move freely the transform through the transform node where there is no tracking data. Paste it on like this, and so I'm not affecting the tracking data at all, where the tracking data is pasted on the merge node. That's why we created this transform node, so we can freely move this on this space so it doesn't affect of the clip. And now if we play this back, we can see the fire is pretty well tracked onto the shot. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's go ahead and add and play with the colors a little bit. Let's go ahead and extend this space here. Let's move it like that. And the first thing I want to do is basically create this it's a pretty cool plugin called the white balance. It's a little bit more just than a white balance slider, but here I can control basically the red, blues, and the green channels in a cool way. So I'm gonna make that into one. Then I'm going to head and create a brightness and contrast like this, and then I'm gonna go be creating like color curves here. I can add a color curves, just basically adding a couple different color corrector nodes. I could go and select all these, hit Command G to make it a group, and then Command D to open it up again. It's just so I can basically close it up so I don't have so many like nodes hitting me. I could do the same for the glows here. Command G, make them into a group, and I could right click, go to rename, call these fire glows, because that's pretty much what they are. I can open them up. And it basically gives you the look that you have a more professional node network when you have these nice boxes and you're nice and organized. Nice and organized. That is the trick for a good VFX artist. Okay, so we go here. We have our white balance, and let's go start working with this fire a little bit. Let's go to the brightness and contrast. Maybe give this a little bit of a gain here. A good reference when you're talking about how should your fire be exposed when you're doing these shots. You could have it go down, but basically the fire, general rule of thumb is the fire cannot have more dynamic range than your shot where it is living. So for example, we have a couple of practical lights here, and we can see that they are overexposing at the center of the core. So basically the fire could not look like this to basically have the impact that it would have way more dynamic range than what these lights are clipping. So the highlights of the fire should also be clipping. That's why we have the gain in a way so the core is clipping just enough. So that is a good rule of thumb to make sure that you're exposing the fire the same way as your ambience is exposed. Let's go to the white balance here. And from here we can play with the colors. I think this is way too yellow for the shot. I think we need to settle it down, but let's go to the blue channel. And here we can drag it to the left. We just take a little bit away of the yellow. Let's go to the green channel. Maybe give that a little boost there. Go to the red channel. Maybe drop it down just a touch so we can get a little bit more reds in the core there. Let's drop the blues down just a touch. Let's go to the color curves. And here I want to just control the red channel here. So, but what I'm gonna do is gonna drop the highlights because I don't want it to be too red because there's not that much red in the shot here. Maybe drop it down here at the core. Just a little touch there. Let's go and see how that looks like. Let's give this a little render. All right, we have a pretty good looking flame in our shot here. We have one last thing to do, but before that, do you guys like this tutorial? If you are enjoying it, definitely give this video a like. And of course, consider subscribing to this channel if you want to see more tutorials like this. And yeah, that's gonna be super cool. So definitely do that if you like this tutorial. Now, let's move on. Okay. So the last part is to create a little bit of light flickering. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this pretty manually. We're not gonna use any kind of expressions. This is still about the 9th episode in the series, so we are learning as we go. So expressions are coming in a future tutorial. All right, so let's go ahead and create this a new merge node. Let's click on this little merge shortcut here to put a new merge node here, and let's go ahead and rename this to something like final output. Should be pretty good. Oh, colon. Let's be underscore like that. Then let's go ahead and create a polygon here. A polygon is basically just like a freeform mask, which will be then added to white solid. Let's go ahead and add this little polygon here, and add this to be this nice form where the fire's light might affect this scene, somewhat like this. And then let's go ahead and put that to the first viewer. We can see it's activated over here. Let's put on the merge node. Let's put that on the first, on the output there. And let's put the final output to the second viewer so we can see. And if you didn't catch that, when I'm putting things to the second and first viewer, I'm just using the number 1 and number 2 key. The screencast should be showing that I'm pressing those buttons. But anyway, let's go to polygon. Let's go do some soft edging here. Nice feathering. Go to the final output and put the apply mode to overlay, so it does give a little bit nice of a light cast there. Polygon, soft edge, looking nice. Put the level down, maybe to something like 0.6. All right, so now we have this light affecting like a flicker base, but now we need to parent this to the track so it follows, and then we start to animate this so it moves accordingly with the fire. Right. Okay, let's go ahead and first go to the final output because it's where the polygon is connected. Go to the center, connect to tracker path, position, boom, go back to the polygon. So now if you would move the merge node where the tracking data is, you would be messing up the tracking data because now you would move one of these points up there and then you would have this nice track and then it would spike the location up. So go back to the polygon. And from here, you move it back into its place like that. So now when we work this back, yes, now the polygon is sticking to the ground. Awesome. From here, now we're going to go ahead and do some animations. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the polygon here. We could also go and just for good measure, rename this to flicker. Like that, and then go and here to the top right corner, type in keyframes and move this so we have show only selected tool so we can only see the flicker. We can go down, we have the polyline, and then we can close this up for a second, go to flicker, go to level, and right click and click animate. So we want to animate the level at basically the strength of this glow we have created here. Level, animate. Back to the keyframe. So now we can see the level parameter here on the keyframe panel. So now from here, I'm gonna take the first key down and we're gonna put that to something like, I like to have this preset also, maybe 0.4. then basically I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go maybe a couple frames forward, put it down, a couple frames forward, back. I'm just using the arrow keys here. And then I'll just manually doing like this little flicker action. There's also expressions to do this, to maybe quicken this up, but expressions is a little bit more advanced of a technique, so we're gonna do that in a later tutorial in the future. So I'm gonna do this for just a moment here, and I think that is starting to get pretty good here. All right, let's go ahead and zoom into this little clip here, and let's see how this looks like if you would do a simple playback. It's a pretty solid flicker happening here. Okay, let's go ahead and now, since we want to save some time to be efficient, we're gonna do this. Just select them all. Make sure that you have not selected anything, otherwise it's gonna be selecting a bunch of different stuff. Right click, copy points, and then go and move forward. And now right click, paste points and value. It does say that you can use Command C, Command V, or Control C, Control V for that matter if you're using Windows. But for some reason, it doesn't just work that if I go here now, I put the cursor in. Let's move. Do like this. And put the cursor in here, and now with typing Command V, it will be doing something pretty weird. So that's why I'm doing this with Command point value like manually. Then I usually never have any issues. Awesome. Let's type in the keyframes down. Let's see what this looks like. Looks pretty nice. We could actually add, to make this a little bit more settled, we can go to the final output and take the blend down, which is basically like global opacity for the effects that is on the foreground. Pretty handy. All right, that looks pretty cool. That looks pretty exactly the thing I wanted to be creating here. Alright, I think the tutorial's done here. Hope you guys did enjoy this and had gotten a couple pointers on how to do these kinds of simple composites. And definitely if you want to see more advanced versions of this, leave a like on this video so I can be creating a more advanced version of this where we're creating embers, heat distortion, all that kind of cool stuff. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Definitely give a like and a comment on this video, and let's move to the outro. Alright, we have reached the end of this tutorial. Hope you guys did enjoy this tutorial as much as I did creating it. And if you did, don't forget to give me a like and a comment down below. And also, don't forget to consider subscribing to this channel if you never want to miss out on a new video. And definitely ring that notification bell so you get notified when a new tutorial drops into your subscription box. Other than that, don't forget also to suggest your tutorial suggestions in the comment section down below. And as always, learn to do the master, and master to impress. My name is VK. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Peace.